Welcome to All Horse Racing All the Time. I'm your host, Al. In this video, I'm going to provide you with the entries who will not win the Preakness. We have 8 entries right now. I've looked over the data. I'll give you some reasons why for each of them. And yeah, what a big scratch by Muth. And we'll begin by going to the data, and I'm going to go right through these for those of you who want to get started with your early handicapping here on this Wednesday night. Okay, here we go. 8 entries. We'll start with the number 1. We'll go right through them. Got Joe Bravo up, Jersey Joe Bravo, driving Mugatu. And I'm not going to beat this horse to death. This horse is simply too slow, opens at 20-1. It's been running on synthetic. The numbers are just so weak. It's facing much better competition. So number 1, you could eliminate for the 2024 Preakness. Now number 2, Uncle Heavy. That's a 20-1 shot with Irod Ortiz up. Robert Reed Jr., the trainer. Now this is another one that's simply too slow. By the numbers, yeah. Wood Memorial. I don't like what it did. It ran a nice race at the Withers and won by a nose. Then goes to the G2 Wood Memorial, and I don't like how that one bounced. Coming in 5th place, 11th lengths back. I know Irod Ortiz is on there. Of course, Irod Ortiz, the best jockey in the country. He's going to improve any horse that he rides. When there's a jockey switch, Sanchez was riding, ran its first 3 career races at Parks. Irod will improve this one. If you want to play games, maybe use them deep or trifecta or maybe super. Otherwise, the horse is just too slow. You could throw out number 2, Uncle Heavy, Irod Ortiz, or no Irod Ortiz. This is like giving a comparison of what this is like, comparing Uncle Heavy to the other horses. And this is the same thing as the 1. It's like having a drag strip race in a car, and one guy is riding a Volkswagen and the other one is driving a Corvette. But you got the best drag strip rider in the world driving the Volkswagen. He's not going to win. Same thing with Irod Ortiz. So you got 1 and 2 you could scratch. Number 3, Catching Freedom, Brad Cox. Interesting horse. Opens at 6-1. Flavian Pratt up, one of the best jockeys in the country there. Brad Cox, probably the best trainer in the United States right now. No one wins at the percentages that he wins. Has some decent numbers. It did win the G2 Louisiana Derby a couple back. Has a nice middle move, pace wide, late pace. Now this one would have to improve too. Would have to improve a little bit. Has a 3rd place finish on a wet track. At the distance, he's 1 for 2. Not the fastest. He's going to have to move forward a little bit, but if anyone can get a horse ready, it's Brad Cox and Flavian Pratt. I like its running pattern. It's moving up. And as a 3-year-old has every right to improve. We're not tossing Catching Freedom out of this. Closing Style. That might be a bit of a concern, but I believe we're going to get some pace in here, and Closer will benefit more in this race than would in a Derby with 20 entries. So keep an eye on Catching Freedom, not a toss. Of course, number 4, Muth, is scratched. Number 5, Mystic Dan. By the numbers, by the data, he's run the fastest race on a wet track, 1 for 1. That was his best career race. Coming off the Kentucky Derby. You can't toss this horse. So we'll set the record straight right there. Comes out of the Derby. Brian Hernandez up has ridden this one every race it's known. Mystic Dan and Kenneth McPeak. Comes off the Derby out of a fast sire, Golden Sense, who's out of Into Mischief. Not going to beat that to death either. We're not going to get rid of him. And number 5, a Mystic Dan. No, number 6, Seize the Gray. Okay, Wayne Lucas, back to the Preakness. Everyone's has an eye on what he's going to do here. Did win the Pat Day Mile on Kentucky Derby Day. And that's only at a mile. This one has never run at the distance. Slower by the numbers as well. Means coming back quick. 1 for 2 on a wet track and a 3rd place finish. Has a little on the fence between this one and another one. Opens 15-1. Jamie Torres up. D. Wayne Lucas. Not fast enough. So that's another horse that can't win this race. 1, 2, 6. When's the last time a horse came out of the Pat Day Mile to win the Preakness? Might be part of the pace, though. That's the thing. But he did run faster, running shorter. I don't expect this one to get the lead either. In over his head. We'll go to number 7. I was torn between the 6 and 7, including one of the 2, but I'm not going to push it. Just Steel bounced terribly in the Kentucky Derby, and they're bringing him back. I mean, at the second call, he was in second by a head. I mean, Dean Wayne Lucas has 2 entries in here. He's really going for it here. What I do like about this one is Justify, and I do like the race it ran to back, even though it didn't win the Arkansas Derby. So that's why I was a little on the fence about it. And it has a few races in here that are fast enough if he runs one of those races. It's such a bad race. I'm not expecting this one to bounce back. Number 7, also a toss. Just don't want to leave anything out here. Number 8, Tuscan Gold, very lightly raced, getting better on the improve. Nice running pattern. This is another one that's going to have to improve a little bit, but you got Chad Brown, who really gets him ready. When he points a horse to a race, he means business. He has it ready. Look at his track record. Another great jockey up, Tyler Gaffalione. Going to have to improve. I mean, we don't know what it can do on a wet track. We're going to keep an eye on that. But as of right now, number 8, I'm not getting rid of it. Now we'll move on to the final horse. Okay. Here, now this is an interesting one. Imagination, the other Bob Baffert horse that's remaining. He's being ridden by super world-class jockey Frankie Dettori, Lanfranco Dettori, and Bob Baffert Can't say enough about him. He knows how to get him ready. Comes off a couple of bullet works. He says he likes the way this horse is training. He seems to be bringing him around to what he's expecting him to do. He's run 6 races, never finished outside of second place, 2 seconds and 4 firsts. Just missed in the Santa Anita Derby, but by a neck, and he won ahead San Felipe Derby G2 by a head. And has a nice pattern going too. He's another one that's going to have to improve, but the reason I want to keep this one in here, because he appears to be the true to character, the controlling speed. He's the early speed of this race. Now, if he gets out there, I think that Bob's just going to send them, or Detroit's just going to send this one, and it's a Baffert horse, and you got the top jock. 2 bullet workouts. So we're going to ship him in. And a little bit about this. With the scratch of Muth, I thought it was very close to being just a 2-horse race between Mystic Dan and Muth, and maybe one of the others. With the pace, either Imagination or it's early yet. It's Wednesday. We'll see how this progresses. But as of right now, to get started with your early handicapping, I saw it was a 2-horse race. Now, when Muth was in there, and now the field size gets smaller down to 8. But with Muth out of there, I see this as a 4-horse race. 4-horse race for the win spot between Catching Freedom, Mystic Dan, Tuscan Gold, and Imagination. It's hard to leave any of those out. For the win spot, I'm talking. Strictly the win spot. So there you have it. The 4 tosses. Number 1, Magada. Number 2, Uncle Heavy. Number 6, Sees the Gray. And number 7, Just Steel. So more to come on that. Just looking at this for the first time, early handicapping, things can change. And I'm curious about the scratch of Muth getting the fever. He was on the plane with a bunch of other horses coming over for the contingency from the flight from California over to the East Coast, so supposedly feeling fine. And when he got off the plane, and then all of a sudden this morning, that was yesterday, and it gets off this morning, he turns up, they had the scratch in by the early morning. And we've seen this before a big race when they flew horses in, a bunch of them were on there, and one comes down up with a fever like Muth did, and others end up coming up with a fever. They get sick the same way. There was some crazy scratches. And so we got to keep. Bob had 2 horses on the same plane. Now, if that's a virus, or if the horse sneezes or something, and it comes around, the other horses can catch it. And some might start showing symptoms a day later or so. Today is only Wednesday. And what would happen if Bob's other horse scratched? And what about the horses that are on the same plane coming over and from owners, West Coast owners, to run in some of the other big races Friday and Saturday? So hopefully they're looking into this. Hopefully that's not the case where a bunch of horses got sick, and there's more bad news to come. As far as the competitiveness of this Derby, the scratch of Muth, That changes everything. It changes the early pace, and now you have horses that I wouldn't have considered as win contenders. I'm not talking about exactas, trifectas. I'm just talking about the ones who can win and the ones who have no shot. Certainly, the horses that I saw with no shot before, now they have a chance. Look at Mystic Dan. He's coming back in 2 weeks. What happens if he doesn't fire? So we'll see. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Stay tuned, because as the days progress and more information comes out, I'll give you my final picks on who's going to win this race, who the one I like best, and maybe a backup or two along those lines once we know more. So thanks for watching, everybody. Good luck. Happy handicapping, and talk with you soon.